Hi, my name's Joe Marone, and I'm the host of Insights over Espresso, where in this episode series, we're speaking with innovative leaders from the venture capital space. And today I'm joined by Johnson Zhu from AlphaTrio Capital. Welcome.
Thank you.
So, Johnson, it was great speaking with you earlier and learning more about your work with AlphaTrio Capital and your new venture with Dershan Capital, which we'll dig into a little bit later. But AlphaTrio is really known for its explicit triple returns thesis and outperforming the HK ESG benchmark. What would you say is the single biggest operational challenge that you face in translating that deep, nuanced ESG diligence into a scalable, repeatable process across your three distinct verticals: PropTech, Agri-FoodTech, and CleanTech?
Yeah. The biggest challenge I would say is defining what a sustainability actually means, in different contexts. For example, in the US right now, ESG can be a loaded term. So internally, we translate it into resilience. For example, for a PropTech deal, resilience means energy efficiency. For an AI deal, it may means AI safety. So the operational headache is creating a unified framework that measures these very different types of risks, from apples to oranges, without losing the nuance. We aren't just checking, compliance boxes. We are stress testing for survival.
That's interesting. So you're uniquely positioned connecting the East to the West, given the regulatory culture and information asymmetries in cross-border deals. How
Mhm.
much time does your team currently dedicate to, localization, translation, and standardizing data from your strategic partners to make it actionable?
It's a good question. Yeah, I would say it's substantial, probably 30 to 40% of our bandwidth. And it's not just language translation. I would say it's context translation. So when we look at global energy technologies, for example, a grid solution that works in Asia might not fit the regulatory landscape here in California. So scrubbing that data to make it investment ready for US standards is a heavy manual lift right now.
Hmm. Okay. So with LPs increasingly scrutinizing both the impact and returns, what's the typical overhead in terms of team hours required to generate the detailed narratives and the data-rich reports that highlight your 22.3% IRR advantage? Which, congratulations, that's all.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it takes a massive amount of work already, and here's why, that 20.3% IRR didn't come from playing it safe, it came from betting early on hard tech and deep tech, I would say. Unlike a software app where you just show a growth chart with hard tech, we have to explain the science. We have to write a narrative that proves why this battery technology, for example, or this robotics platform is a game changer. So the overhead is translating complex engineering into a financial story that LPs can actually understand. So you can't just auto-generate that.
Okay, impressive. So Alpha Trio advertises 2,000 plus annual deal flow. Again, impressive. What's your current system for the initial screening and prioritization of that many deals? And where do you estimate the biggest bottleneck is in extracting structured data from pitch decks and intros?
That's an interesting question. I would say right now it's still a lot of manual digging. We get pitch decks in every format you can imagine, like PDFs, Notion links, long emails. I would say the real bottleneck is just cutting through the noise. You get a flashy deck with great graphics, but where are the real numbers? Where is the meat? My team spends way too much time just hunting for the basics, like burn rate or unit economics, buried inside all that market fluff. It feels like looking for a needle in a haystack sometimes.
I hear a lot of venture capital people that I speak with say the same thing. And I think everybody struggles with the same thing.
Yeah.
So with that volume of deal flow, partners' time must be precious. You said your team spends a lot. If you could eliminate 50 to 70% of the time currently spent on manual deal screening and summarization, where would you redirect that capacity to drive the most significant growth for the fund?
I would redirect it to boots on the ground, maybe. Instead of, reading PDFs, I want my team, including myself, visiting the pilot plants, talking to the engineers, or meeting the founders face to face. In deep tech and energy, you can't see the full picture from a spreadsheet. What you need to see is the machine running and get your hands and shoes dirty. That's where the real alpha is.
Okay. Okay. Make sure you bring some soap with you to wash your hands,
Of course.
get all the grease off, right? Um, so your thesis spans highly specialized deep tech areas. How do you ensure your partners and investment teams get rapid, comprehensive briefs on the market size, the competitive landscape, and regulatory context for each new opportunity without repetitive, heavy research cycles?
I would say standard AI tools can already give us a market snapshot in seconds. Speed is no longer the bottleneck. I have to say, verification it is. If I ask a public AI, for example, like ChatGPT or Gemini, about the question about, grid queue times, it might hallucinate, or pull outdated data from 2003, 2023 or 2022. So we aren't just using AI for search. We are building a verification layer. We use the AI to scrape the data instantly, but then our system, cross-references it with our data sets to ensure we aren't making investment decisions based on a hallucination. It turns search time into validation time sometimes.
Okay. So we're seeing a surge, certainly, in AI augmented VC.
Mhm.
Lots of VC firms are looking at different ways that they could leverage AI. For AlphaTrio, do you view AI primarily as a tool for internal efficiency, like cutting memo creation time, or as a strategic differentiator for deal sourcing and LP relations?
I would say it certainly has to be a strategic differentiator. Efficiency is table stakes, and the real win, I would say, is using AI to spot power signals. For example, like identifying which sectors are about to experience an energy bottleneck or an efficiency breakthrough before the broader market sees it. That's how we find the next unicorn, not just writing memos faster.
Mm, okay. So beyond capital, what's the most resource intensive support you currently offer founders in your portfolio? Is it hiring? Is it go to market strategy or ESG compliance?
For us, yeah, it is definitely cross-border expansion. As mentioned before, specifically we are helping top-tier Asian deep tech founders, crack the North American market.
Okay.
Technologically, I would say they are, brilliant, but commercially, I don't know. So it's a huge challenge for us and for the team. So we spend a massive amount of time helping them localize, not just translating language, but translating, their business logic. So we help them hire their first, for example, hire their first US sales VP, navigating US regulations, and frankly, teach them how to tell a story that American customers will buy. It is extremely high touch work.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. I hear that a lot. Yeah, going both ways, both directions.
Right.
And I think it's even harder going from here to there than there to here. Where, and second kind of question off of that same thread, where do you see the greatest opportunity to productize that support using technology?
It's a good question. Actually, we are taking a big step to solve this. We are planning to launch a dedicated North America accelerator, for example, specifically for those cross-border founders. So instead of doing ad hoc consulting for every single portfolio company, we want to do, the soft landing systematically. We are building a structured program that bundles everything. And for example, like legal setup, initial hiring, and customer introductions into a standard turnkey package. So we aren't just supporting them, we are building the infrastructure for them to scale in the US from day one. That is how we productize our
Okay. So if you had a clear, proven system to unify your deal sourcing, standardize your ESG diligence, and dramatically shorten the time from first intro to partner ready memo, what would that allow Alpha Trio to achieve in the next 12 to 18 months?
I think it would allow us to scale our thesis on human-centric tech. So with a unified system, we could track hundreds of energy and AI deals simultaneously without adding headcount. So it means we could deploy capital faster into the technologies that actually matter for our future. So scaling our impact, along with our returns.
Okay. So many funds now claim ESG impact, standing out with consistent content, thought leadership, and prop tech, ag, food tech, clean tech. It requires ongoing research and content creation. What is Alpha Trio doing regarding brand visibility in that crowded ESG VC space?
I would say, to be honest, we are pivoting away from the generic ESG label. It's too crowded and frankly, a little bit politicalized. So we are positioning as the pragmatic futurists. So we talk about energy security, for example, and also AI infrastructure and human continuity. LPs, appreciate that we aren't chasing those trends. We are actually solving the hard problems, like how do we power the next generation of AI without breaking the planet, for example. So that cuts through the noise, I think.
Okay. I like that.
Thank you.
We used to, when I was in my early years of sales, I think they called that changing the playing field,
Mm,
right?
yeah.
So you're launching a new US-based fund, Durst Capital. What are you doing to rapidly expand your network here in the US and establish your personal brand as the authority in the AI and energy transition space to attract LPs and high quality deal flow?
I would say, my strategy is quite simple, so it is give value to get access. So I don't just attend events, I participate as a leader, for example. Currently, I serve as a judge, for numerous tech roadshows and actively mentor early stage startups. So this puts me right in the center of the ecosystem. For example, as a judge, I get to see the raw deal flow and establish myself as a gatekeeper in the deep tech space. And as a mentor, I build deep trust with founders by helping them solve real operational problems. So I'm positioning myself, not just as an investor, but as an operator plus investor who can partner with them to understand, supply chains as well. Founders here, they like talking to me because I've been in their shoes before, like those corporations like GE, 3M I've been working with, and I know how to scale atoms, not just bits.
Right. So tell me a little bit more about Dershan Capital. I mean, what was the impetus behind, you starting that fund?
Yeah, so we want to make this, to be in the US for US capital. So we want to invest companies here in the US who can make innovation happen. The verticals we are focusing on are in for example, like the energy transition, energy efficiency, robotics, and mobility, as well as the wellness, which we see that in the future, as we are talking about, the human continuity, we would like to have this kind of the verticals to support all the growth in the future. And of course, many of the deal flows were actually generated from these areas. And we have seen tremendous opportunities for us to be participating.
Hmm. Okay. All right. And when did you start that fund?
I would say we are working with our team, here, and also, we are talking with several LPs, and we are thinking to launch it by the end of this year.
Okay. All right. And what's the fund goal?
The goal, yeah, as I mentioned, the the fund is not only the VC, typical VC, but also we sometimes we will like to be a venture builder, to help those companies, to thrive and the scale their products here, even cross borders from Asia to the US or from North America to Asia to Europe. So we'd like to be the bridge to help them, not only on the capital, but also on the resources, networks, everything.
Okay. Okay. Well, Johnson, thank you very much for sharing such valuable insight. Where can our listeners learn more about you and AlphaTrio and, for that matter, Dershan and follow your work?
Yeah, I would say you can follow my LinkedIn, and I will have some more updates on my posts in the future. And also I will be actively, joining several events as a speaker, as a judge, in the future.
Okay. And are there websites for both Dershan and
Yeah,
AlphaTrio?
of course. Yes.
And what are those? Could you tell the listeners how to get
Yes.
those?
Yeah. For AlphaTrio is the Dershan Impact dot com. Yeah, and AlphaTrio Cap.com.
Okay. Great. Great. Thank you very much for being a guest.
Yes. Bye bye.